When you give gifts, you like to knock them out of the park. Airwick Essential Mist Diffuser's chic design, long-lasting scents, and effortless setup makes it the kind of gift that feels complete the moment it's unwrapped. Perfect for your favorite dinner party host or that friend who loves a cozy night in. Plus, its cordless design means you can easily take this gentle fragrance with you from room to room. Airwick Essential Mist. Ready to gift. Ready to uplift.
You make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. We're a month into the football season, and guys like rookie tight end Tyler Warren are taking the league by storm. Every week, I hop into my PrizePicks app to check his projections to see his upcoming matchup. It's incredibly easy and fun. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code DFS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code DFS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast with your hosts, Kyle Borganoni and Matthew Betz.
Welcome on back. Friday, October 23rd here. Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I am joined, as always, by Matthew. You're not breaking the slate, Betz.
I'm not going to break the slate? Come on, man.
No, you yourself. If I put you in my lineup, you would not break it.
No, I'd come up with a nice cold snowflake in there for you. 0 points. Kind of like Jameson Williams, on the last game and several games this year for JMO. But they're not on the main slate, so we don't have to talk about them. Fun slate on hand, man. I'm actually really, really excited about this. We were talking before we started recording that, most weeks there's like 3 or 4 versions of like the same team that are played in cash. It's kind of hard to get different. You come down to a 1v1 or a 2v2, and that decides it. There's a lot of really good plays in this slate, and pricing is such that it kind of makes it tricky to fit them. So you're going to get, I think, for tournaments, very, very good plays at very low roster percentage. So I'm actually really excited to talk about this slate, not just for cash, but also from a GPP angle perspective. And, Kyle, I've gotten burned this year in tournaments. As they say, keep getting off the board, get unique, do other things. But I actually feel really good about this slate for tournaments. So hopefully we turn it around here.
I do as well. I think it's one of those things where I'm going to be looking back on Monday, just looking at my account, looking at my crowns that I got.
Counting the crowns.
And having a conversation with my wife, saying, hey, did you know this weekend I did pretty well? I took $1.80 from a couple people, those head-to-heads. I'm just going to show her the usernames of everybody.
That's so bad, man. And you're just going to be out there, flaunting it because you just won that 180 and somebody's going to have to tell their kid, look, I'm sorry, if you're hungry, drink water tonight. Like, Kyle took my money in the lobby. I have nothing for you. Sorry. You're a bully, but hey, that's what you got to do in cash.
I mean, I know I do this, but maybe other people don't, but every single week I print out my lineup and then I print all the other lineups that went against me in head-to-head. I have this giant stack. I've already started a whole collage of just everybody that just went down to my cash lineup.
I feel like you're, Charlie, the meme with all the, pin boards and you're connecting to the yard and everything.
Yep.
Just explaining what's going on. So, yeah, you could do it, electronically. I'm sure you like that with your spreadsheets, but this is next level.
No, you got to print it out like we used to do with MapQuest.
Oh, dude, I remember getting lost like on the way to like soccer tournaments and stuff as a kid with mostly my dad, driving with the MapQuest printout and being like, we missed the exit. You missed the turn. And it's just so funny to think back. People don't even know what that's like anymore. But when we were kids, you got to print out the MapQuest. You got to follow it. It's so, so good, man.
What if I told you I had a binder?
Technology is great, but we got to go back to the old days sometimes.
I still have our Garmin, and I obviously haven't used it, but I have that little Garmin mount that I had like in high school that, on my couple of trips that I took, like it was cool. I'm sure people are still, there's people out there that are still using a Garmin, right?
I sure hope not.
That'd be great. But I going back to this slate, there are so many different ways to attack it. there's one game that seems to be above the rest, and despite it being super popular, I don't know how people are going to stack it up. Like that's the crazy thing with Denver and Dallas. The Dallas side, you look at the matchup and you go, this is tough. The Denver side, you're like, they could spread the ball out. So lots of different ways to look at it that way. We have 3 stud running backs on this slate that are really expensive. You cannot fit in all 3 of them. And there's going to be somebody that shows me like, trust me, I'll do it. And they punt like at wide receiver twice. There's Jamar Chase on the slate with Flack Daddy, who's just been awesome, 45 and 47 pass attempts. So lots of different ways to get different on this slate. But as we've kind of figured out, the chalk just loves eating away at everything that we've ever thought about DFS this year. I do think this is the week to get a little different. Thoughts?
I like it. I agree. And like I said, sometimes there's slates where you feel like you have to get different in tournaments just for the sake of getting a low rostered piece in your lineup. On this specific slate, I think you're going to be able to get plays that you feel really good about at low roster percentage. So I like it this week. I'm pretty excited to play some tournaments.
On this podcast, we'll give our cash picks, highlight a couple of GPP games that we want to stack, talk about our slate breakers, prop it like it's hot, and then maybe arrive at a team that we will be taking for our survivor pool. It's week 8. And it's getting a little tough here. I maybe it's at this point now where I look at the team that we select and I have such a tight criteria that I overthink it. And so I think we're going to land on a pick where it's like, just don't overthink it. Take this player. So we'll just a little tease there.
Hope so. I'm not feeling great about Survivor this week, if I'm being honest.
No.
I think a lot of the favorites, like the bigger favorites, like if you've got the Colts left to you, I mean, come on, you can use the Colts.
Yes.
We've already used the Colts. But for the teams we're looking at, a lot of the spreads are 6.5, 7 points. You should feel confident in it, but you can also poke holes in these teams too. So we'll talk about it at the end, but I'm excited, man. This is going to be a great slate.
The Falcons are one of those teams that we're considering.
I mean, when you just think about vibes, right? Whatever formations you want to talk about, yards per route run, yada, 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 whatever nerdy stats you want to use. If we just go back to what this game was built on, let's be honest, was vibes. Is there a team in the NFL with vibes worse right now than the Dolphins?
Maybe the Jets.
That's fair. That's a coin flip between the two of them.
Yes.
But where are the Dolphins going?
They're going into Mercedes-Benz, and the Falcons at home are a juggernaut. The rest of the NFL is on notice, and it's also a chance to, for some reason, like we could just avoid the Falcons the whole season. I kind of want to do that.
But if we're going to play them, this feels like the spot to do it.
Yeah. If we land there, then we ride. That's what it is. So DFSpass.com, if you want access to all of our picks, DraftKings, FanDuel. So up on the site right now is Matthew Betz's DraftKings cash picks, the kind of pool of players that we'll discuss on this podcast. Some of those are on there. And then on Saturdays, our best plays and tournament takes article that I write. Lots of good stuff, our optimizer. So DFSpass.com. We'd love to hang out with you. Moving on.
Straight cash, homie.
It's a tough cash slate. And I think it's because the high-priced guys are now getting up. Like DraftKings has started to realize that we can't just fit in all the studs. So like Jonathan Taylor, we were playing him at what, like 7,400, whatever it was. And now it's like, hey, pay up, son. If you want to go there, $9,500. That's expensive despite the matchup. And despite what he's done against the Colts the last 2 games, he's had 3 touchdowns each of his last 2 games against the Titans. So let's start at quarterback. And I'm seeing a little tier system here where Jalen Hurts at 6.6 at home against the Giants. I mean, the Eagles are a passing team nowadays. We know that. That's their identity. They can't run the ball.
Obviously.
Jalen Hurts at 6.6. Bo Nix at 6K is going to be I would say, one of the easier clicks of the week at home against the Dallas defense. And then I do want to mention Caleb Williams at 5.6. His stats from last week are probably going to turn a lot of people off, but Baltimore's been a team that you can throw on for most of the year. That's kind of the tier system. So 6.6, 6K, 5.6 that I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, I think, and looking at pricing structure, of course, like at the top, you've got Allen and you've got Lamar Jackson, we think is going to play. But the problem with like playing, Allen on the slate is not that he doesn't project well. He does. It's just that when you think about the running back plays, which we'll get to in a second, they are incredible at the top. There's some guy named Jamar Chase on the slate taking on a Jets team that probably won't have Sauce Gardner. So when you think about like where do I want to allocate my salary on the slate, to me, it's not at the very, very top at quarterback, especially considering that Lamar Jackson might be limited, assuming he plays from a rushing component standpoint, for cash games, which if we're trying to make sure we put the best plays in our lineup, like just poking holes in some guys, I think sometimes makes a lot of sense. And if you think about Lamar, how much does he run? How healthy is he? We really don't know that. So for me, I'm not considering those guys at the top, which then kind of funnels you on to Jalen Hurts. Like you talked about, the pass rate of expectation has been there for Philly. They've got one of the highest team totals on the slate. They're favored. They're at home. This feels like a spot where, they kind of got embarrassed in primetime 2 weeks ago in that Thursday night game against the Giants. It's the rematch just a couple weeks later. They're back home. Things are kind of clicking in the passing game now. So I do like Jalen Hurts. And of course, touch push is always in play for a touchdown. But given, again, the context of the slate pricing wise, like I do kind of feel like you need the money to drop down. So my lean right now is to play Bo Nix at 6K. He's had some issues this year, man. He has not been good as like a real life NFL quarterback, but in fantasy, we don't care because he will run and he's taking on a Cowboys team that is dead last in pretty much everything you look at from a passing standpoint defensively. And I think Trayvon Diggs looks likely to miss this game, at least based off practice reports. He's trending in the wrong direction. So yeah, you could definitely talk me into that spot for Bo Nix for sure. This is the highest total on the slate, Denver and Dallas.
I had some issues going into this season with Bo Nix. And we had an episode called the Change My Mind episode. I'm not here to like toot my horn. It's more of just like reminding us that like what I brought up, I believe my phrase was, I think the Broncos offense is a trap. And my issue was how they ran hot last year in margin of victory and how the short passing game, the NFL adjusts to that over time. So this is a great matchup. I don't care about like what they've done for the entire season because up until the fourth quarter, it was really, really bad. And then you saw them blow up. You know the potential. Dallas games are what we want for fantasy. We'll highlight that one in a second. So I think Bo Nix is probably going to be our top quarterback, barring something very, very crazy. And at 6K, he just fits in quite nicely. And there's room for ceiling. So that combination, he runs, the price, the game, he's just going to work out very, very well on both sides. And at running back this week, Taylor, CMC, Bijan. Those are the three studs. And Bijan is the cheapest, air quotes cheapest, of the three. He's still very expensive. But I think Bijan is my current favorite, not just as a Falcons fan, but the matchup against Miami is glorious. Let me give you a hot stat for you, Betz, because I know that you're just waiting for this. They are on pace to allow the sixth most rushing yards of any team over the last 25 years.
Good Lord. Yeah, it's over. The Dolphins know it. McDaniel knows it. Tua knows it.
So we're taking the Falcons.
Maybe. I mean, if you think about, well, we also need to mention too, Michael Penix is a little banged up. I have some reservations about that, just from like a team level standpoint. But if you think about the game plan for DFS and for cash, the game plan in this spot is not going to be, hey, let's drop Penix back 45 times and let him win the game. The game plan is going to be hand the ball off to Bijan and Tyler Algier and let those guys go to work behind a good offensive line. They should run wild in this spot for this situation. They're at home. They're favored by 7.5 points. I think Bijan, if you're going to spend up at running back, to me is the preferred play. Not that I don't want to play McCaffrey or Jonathan Taylor, but again, every dollar matters for cash on this slate. So if you are spending up at running back, to me, Bijan, I think, is the play. But I will say, man, Jonathan Taylor is so interesting here. They're 14.5 point favorites. The Titans also know it's over. No motivation. They also are not going to have Jeffrey Simmons on the defensive line, which is huge. So JT is going to run wild. It's just a matter of does he run for 100 and a score or 150 and 2 scores? And those will matter, as far as difference in score, what they do in DFS at his price. So I think just talking through those kind of price points and the matchups, everything, I lean Bijan. The other thing too is, you're going to get probably 3 to 6 catches most likely here. And obviously in full PPR, that just matters so much. So Bijan should go crazy here.
He has 40.5%, Bijan, of the team's scrimmage yards this year. And just to give you context, that is the highest in the NFL. So better than any Gurley season or CMC or any crazy season. 40.5% of the team's scrimmage yards. The highest since Adrian Peterson in 2012 when he won the MVP award. So when we brought up MVP talk on Tuesday's episode, I brought up Bijan because I think he's 4th or 5th, or Offensive Player of the Year. I brought up Bijan as kind of like, hey, I think he's a little undervalued when you look at his counting stats. Throwing it out there, Betz. I know you don't want to hear it, but Bijan's obviously been amazing. So Bijan's probably up there as like our top stud play. In the 6K range, Rachaad White, a.k.a. Dick White on our website, is 6.3. He's getting the workload. He's a solid play at his price point. And then the king, Derrick Henry, who I know we're going to talk about later on in this podcast when we preview Bears and Ravens, is only 6K. And just to give you some context, this is the lowest price for Derrick Henry since 2019.
Buttlicker, our prices have never been lower.
It's wild. I even looked up the exact day count because I know that you've been counting bets, and it has been exactly, where's this number? 2,179 days.
I just love Michael Scott in the background. Stop it. As he's saying. Oh, it feels like such a good buy low spot on the Ravens in general. And if assuming Lamar plays, if Lamar again is limited from a rushing mobility standpoint, that's an extra 2, 3, 4 carries that are going to go right to Derrick Henry. So you get Henry off the bye, rested. Ronnie Stanley should be a little bit more healthy here, their left tackle. I think the Bears have been better recently against the run because they've been a little bit healthier. But even all that is not going to deter me away from Derrick Henry as a touchdown home favorite here off the bye at 6K. So I do really like Derrick Henry quite a bit for cash games. He fits nicely if you do want to go like one stud and then a 6K guy, or you could play even 2 6K guys with Rachaad White and Derrick Henry. But I do like both those plays. On Rachaad White, it did not look pretty against the Lions. The Lions have been very good against the run, but now they get New Orleans, and even in that game where it didn't look great, he outsnapped Sean Tucker 63-6. So when you're thinking about just like cash game running backs, like what do we look for? We look for value, and we look for guys that are going to be on the field a ton and touch the ball and can catch the football. And certainly he checks the boxes there, especially considering no Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin, no Bucky Irving.
Yeah, the game plan last week against the Saints was running the ball. That was Chicago. They just did that over and over and over again. So I think you're going to see something similar with a banged up Buccaneers team. Any other running back, like Achane is going to project really well, but I'm not going to be playing Achane and Bijan in the same game. I know he catches the ball a little different, but I don't think you need to go there based on salary. James Cook, 6,700. Breece Hall, never again. Any other names?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Speaking of Breece, too, I'm honestly not sure how truly healthy he is. He left for a period of the game.
He is not invited to my pool party ever again.
Yeah, I don't know, man. He left for a period of the game, came back in, was limited to start the week. Yeah, we'll see. I don't think you can go there in cash just because of those concerns and the systemic risks with the Jets, as we talked about last week. But I think James Cook is also in play. The matchup is not great against Carolina. They have been pretty good against the run in recent weeks. We've talked about that on the show at length. But when you just kind of take a step back and say, okay, we're looking for touchdowns and opportunity for talented players, the Bills have a 27 implied team total on this slate. They're favored by a touchdown. That makes a lot of sense for me on James Cook, even if he's not as efficient as he normally is. The offensive line for Buffalo has played very, very well this year in the run game. So even though it's not a pristine matchup, I think he's still very, very much in play here, especially because there's been kind of some like public pushback on like why wasn't he on the field more in the fourth quarter in their loss to the Falcons before the bye week. So I think you could see them come out and really try to get James Cook going here.
I do think it will be a week where people are building in cash with 3 running backs. So, stud running back, Rachaad White, and then you're figuring out who that other person is. Is it Derrick Henry, Achane, somebody else in that range? So I think there's a lot of good running back plays this week. I mean, if you can figure out a way to play Bijan and JTT, I would love that. I don't think you can make it happen right now. At wide receiver, Jamar Chase is 8,100, and he's been incredible. The stat that we gave on today's main show was that since Joe Flacco became the quarterback last 2 weeks, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins have doubled. So they have twice as many receptions per game and receiving yards per game with Flacco compared to Jake Browning. So they're both awesome plays. Chase, I think, is going to be up there. Just a question, can you also fit him in and Bijan? And, if you're going to pay up for Hurts, I just don't think you can make it happen. But Chase is going to look good. Emeka Egbuka is going to look good at 7K. Those are kind of the stud wide receivers that we're liking.
There's also a third stud that you didn't really mention, Kyle.
CeeDee Lamb?
Chris Olave.
Oh, my Siri thought that I was talking to it, but I was definitely not talking to it.
Yeah, I think you're right. At the top for me, it's Chase and Ibuka. I think Lamb's an awesome play, but when you're thinking about cash and you're thinking about matchups and that sort of thing, for me, I lean Jamar Chase. Now in a tournament, if CeeDee Lamb is going to get pushed down in roster percentage because of the fact that we have Jamar Chase on the slate and some other strong plays in that 7K range, then yeah, let's play him in tournaments. But for me in cash, I think it's either Chase and or Ibuka, and then you're kind of looking at the 5K range, which has been the case pretty much every slate so far this year. This 5K wide receiver range has kind of been pretty necessary in cash games. The two that stick out to me are, of course, Chris Olave, because, well, every week it's Chris Olave. Taking on the Bucks, we know that Tampa really does invite opponents to up their pass rate. They are a pass funnel. They are underdogs in the spot based off the spread, so they should be forced to throw. And he is second in the league in targets. He's 8th in air yard share. That role, if we had like a competent, good quarterback attached to it, should be worth, 7,500 or something. So we'll keep playing Olave until they price him up. So he is back in play for me in a pace-up spot. And then I also really like Zay Flowers taking on Chicago again, assuming Lamar is in. He hasn't been awesome for fantasy in recent weeks, but if you zoom out and kind of think about him with Lamar, at least early in the season, he had 8+ targets in 3 of those 4 games. So I am pretty interested in playing Zay Flowers. He's 5,400. That's a pretty cheap tag for a guy that's pretty talented in Zay Flowers. So I do like him quite a bit as well. But yeah, in the 5K range, Olave and Zay stick out to me.
We're waiting on A.J. Brown. He's not at practice as of this recording. I would love to play him at 6,100.
If he's
that
out,
would just be
would
glorious.
you go right to Devonta Smith?
Well, you know how I feel about Devonta Smith.
You love him?
I have always loved him.
And he's, what is he, 5,900?
It's definitely on my radar. He's always invited to the party, but could get VIP status if he moved in further. I do think that like the hardest part, so we like Knicks, and yet I'm trying to figure out, am I going to pay 6,200 for Cortland Sutton? And then you're like, well, Mims and Franklin are thin cash plays. I don't really know where to go despite liking Knicks. So that's more of a discussion when we get to that game. But I'm still trying to figure out at wide receiver, like, I don't know where the cheap plays are this week.
There's not really any, which is tough. Like, I guess you could talk me into the Houston guys if you really had to go there with Nico and Christian Kirk.
Like Jalen Noel?
Maybe. He's got to be in 3 wide receiver sets. So it'd probably be the guys that are going to play in 2 wide receiver sets. But at the same time, it's like, man, Xavier Hutchinson, I don't know how good that guy actually is. And we've liked Jaden Higgins in the prospect season, but he's really struggled to do anything this year. So I don't feel confident in that. And I also think I'm probably going to play Dalton Schultz, which we'll talk about in a minute.
No.
So I do not.
I probably am too.
Yeah, I know. It's gross. I definitely don't want 2 of those guys. But the cheap guys should make your player pool. From the Texans, assuming that, Nico and Christian Kirk are out. I guess Tez Johnson would be cash viable. But then at the same time, it's like, do you really want to play Rashad White and maybe Cade Otton and Ibuka?
Maybe Ibuka.
Right. That feels shaky to me as well. So that's why it's such a tough slate, I think, for cash. But yeah, there's nothing really that sticks out to me as of right now for these really cheap plays that are standout plays.
So at tight end, you mentioned Dalton Schultz, which is somebody we never want to talk about, but he is 3.3. And if you sort by targets per dollar, so looking at targets, target share, and by salary, he's going to project really well for tight ends. And that's all we really care. I don't think people in cash will be paying up. It's like there's tempting names, but I don't think that's going to be a part of the conversation because we mentioned all the expensive options this week. So down there, it's Cade Otton at 3.4, Dalton Schultz at 3.3. I do like Colston Loveland at 3K if we find out that Kmet is not playing. I know it's kind of thin, but you're getting a full-time role, and it's in a spot where I do think he's a solid play. So that's like my punt play of the week if it's Colston Loveland. George Kittle coming off a goose. Where did you hear the interview where they asked him like about his goals for the week in like the tight end room, which I think is really cool. Like every single week on the Saturday before the game, the tight ends say what their goal is. Like I want to finish my blocks or I want to do this. George Kittle was like, I want Christian McCaffrey to be NFC Offensive Player of the Week.
Yeah, I did see
Check.
that. Dude, Kittle's the man. He's the man.
4,500.
And their run game was unstoppable with him back in the lineup.
Oh, dude. The chunk gains, apparently CMC had the most 10-plus yard runs of his career as a 49er. in that game, and that's what it felt like the entire time, just these chunk gains.
I think he had seven total 10-plus yard runs.
It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Kittle at 4,500, like if you told us that price, right, in August when we're doing our drafts, we're like, how are you not playing him? But again, dynamics of the slate, it's kind of hard to fit him in cash. So I do think he's a really fun tournament play. I think the strategy for me this week at tight end for cash on DraftKings is going to be to punt it off and, take your 6 or 7 points and kind of like move on. I think the field is going to do that too. The guys that I have circled, as I mentioned, Dalton Schultz, barf. But he did see 10 targets last week, and he's quietly had 5+ catches in 4 straight games. So if you're going to get that on a full PPR site, you really could do worse. At the same time, Cade Otton is in play. He's 3,400 taking on the Saints. We talked about some of their injury issues. And the man with the taped fingers, Kyle, is averaging 6.7 targets, 5.3 catches, and 66 yards per game over the last 3 weeks. If you got that at 3,400 in cash, I'd be pretty excited about that. So I think for me, it's Otton or Schultz.
Man, I get to play Cade Otton in the year 2025.
You could get crazy and play Schultz and Otton. Double tight end. No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Man, I do not want to play Schultz out of like pure spite. I don't know if that's how you're supposed to play DFS. They tell me that's not the best way to do it. But
definitely play with your heart and your preconceived notions.
Yes. At defense, I don't love it. The Colts are 3,800. You cannot pay up for that based on all the names we just talked about earlier. Like they're going to project really well against Cam Ward. I'm not finding the salary right now. So you start going down the list. It's like, okay, the Eagles, 3,200. There's some risk there against Jackson Dart. Like there's systemic risk. The Browns are interesting at 2,500 because they're a good team, and that projects to be a low total game. The Bengals, I think, are the perfect middle ground of if Garrett Wilson's out, they're a touchdown favorite at home. They're 2,700. I think they're kind of the perfect little Goldilocks spot.
Yeah, I think so too. And like you said, like the Bengals obviously are not a good defense, but I think a lot of those concerns can be mitigated by the fact that it's going to be Tyrod Taylor behind a middling to below average offensive line without Garrett Wilson, with the less than 100% / no motivation Breece Hall. Like, yeah, I mean, that they're not great, but they're not terrible, especially considering pricing and how they fit on the slate. So I think you will see a lot of Bengals. I'm with you. The Browns are in play. If you need the $200, I'm fine there too. But it's always tough when you're taking on the NFL MVP.
and
you had to pause there for a second.
My brain was short circuiting. I was like, wait, what matchup is he talking about? Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Avoiding your unfinished home projects because you're not sure where to start? Thumbtack knows homes, so you don't have to. Don't know the difference between matte paint finish and satin? Or what that clunking sound from your dryer is? With Thumbtack, you don't have to be a home pro. You just have to hire one. You can hire top-rated pros, see price estimates, and read reviews, all on the app. Download today.
DSW, birthplace of the humble brag. Here, the shoes are so good, no one would ever know how little you paid. If you didn't go telling everyone, that is. And with never-ending options for every style, mood, and occasion, all at really great prices, we'll definitely give you something to brag about. So go ahead, stock up on fresh sneakers from your favorite brands. Or try those boots you always secretly knew you could pull off. Find the shoes that get you at prices that get your budget at DSW stores or DSW.com.
Stack Attack.
We are going to preview 3 games for the Week 8 main slate, and then the conversation starts with Dallas at Denver. Denver is 3.5-point home favorites. The over-under is 50.5. It's beautiful. And I've highlighted this game. I mean, we've highlighted Dallas so much this year because their games have averaged 61.1 combined points. It's number 1 in the NFL. And both teams rank top 10 in terms of pace, top 10 in pass rate over expectation, and top 10 in offensive plays per game. So altogether, we like this matchup. I wish it was in a dome. That'd be even better. And yet still, there are so many different ways that you can attack this game because I think the roster percentage is actually going to be more tame than what we've been used to. Like when we were talking about Dallas and Washington last week, we were like, okay, here's the popular plays. Here's what people are going to do. I think it's going to be a little bit spread out because the other expensive plays this week, the 3 stud running backs, Jamar Chase, are in other game environments. So overall, we like this game. I think Denver's defense, air quotes, they've been hit or miss. They were not great last week. Scares off some people. And yet our studies over the years, that's kind of a myth that you just throw out matchups for elite players and don't let that factor in. Like the projections already factor in that Patrick Surtain is on the other side of the field. They're already factoring that in for CeeDee Lamb or George Pickens. So where do you want to start in this game? Because there's a lot of different ways to go.
Yeah, I think let's start on that point too, because I think I was seeing this a little bit on Twitter and a little Discord too, talking about this game, and I do think these wide receiver cornerback matchups are a little overrated. You can use them as part of the piece of the puzzle, but today's NFL is so different, right? Like guys move all around the formation, they're in the slot, they're outside, there's pre-snap motion. A lot of teams are using zone coverage nowadays. Like it doesn't really matter as much. If you did want to say, hey, who is Surtain most likely to shadow in this game when he's on the perimeter? It's CeeDee Lamb. But CeeDee Lamb does not play exclusively on the perimeter, right? So they're going to move him in the slot, get him away from Surtain. If the field is going to be worried about playing CeeDee Lamb because of Pat Surtain on the other side, I would love to lean into that even more and play him, especially considering, like we talked about at the top, he's 7,800. I don't think you're going to see him in cash, which means as a price point pivot off of Jamar Chase, if you're stacking up this game, Lamb looks incredibly strong this week. I do think you should downgrade Pickens just given that cornerback stuff on the other side. But just thinking about if I'm Dallas and I want to win this game, what is my best chance to do that on the road? It's going to be to put the ball in CeeDee Lamb's hand as much as possible. So I do really, really love CeeDee Lamb in this spot, especially considering the leverage you're going to get on the expensive Jamar Chase.
Counterpoint, I'm actually boosting Pickens this week.
Oh, hit me with that.
So Denver plays man-to-man more than any other team because they can't afford to do it, right? Like they have the corners to be able to stick with people. I do think that when CD moves to the slot, you will see a lot more of that one-on-one opportunity. But Pickens leads the entire NFL in receiving yards against man coverage, 3.23 yards per out run. And you're just let's not forget that Denver has given up plays in the passing game. Last week it was against the Giants of all teams that just over and over and over again, you saw those opportunities. I think the Dallas passing game, people are going to be scared off. And it's one of those things that I'm just going to be playing them if the field is going to, put them down. So I think Pickens is totally fine, and I will be playing him probably above the field.
Yeah, one thing I did want to highlight on this specific matchup, Denver has faced the 4th highest target share to slot wide receivers. We just saw Wan'Dale Robinson catch 6 balls and go crazy in this spot. So again, I'm not worried about it. I'm gonna play these guys and lean into it, especially if people are not going to play it. When we were talking about that, I was picturing Michael Scott about dating Pam's mom. I'm going to play him even harder.
Even harder.
I'm going to play him even harder in this game. So I do like wide receivers here. For Turd Ferg, it's man, I get it. He's been incredible. The man
He's
just can't
expensive.
stop. He can't stop scoring touchdowns. I love it. But at the same time, we know that eventually that will not happen. So I would love to play him when he's not going to be rostered and not the most expensive tight end on the slate. Unfortunately, he is the most expensive tight end, and I think at some point he'll probably not score 2 touchdowns. So I don't think he's going to make my player pool this week just because of that fact, where he's $7K on FanDuel. You got to pay for it. So yeah, for me, no Turd Ferg. I think if you're going to play Dak, for me, it's just probably a skinny with one of CD or Pickens.
If you would have told me that the highest total game of the week, which is over 50, it involves Dallas, and none of the options in this game are going to be 12 to 15%. None of them. This is the game you play. Is it mostly because of the matchup and because when we go to the Denver side, it's where does the ball go? It could be a Mims week, could be a Franklin week, could be Sutton. They could run the ball with Dobbins because it's a bad rush defense. It could literally be dude off the street. So is that part of the issue you think with the roster percentages?
I think it's that and pricing. Lamb's expensive, Dak, you got to spin up a little bit for. Pickens isn't cheap. So, and we just talked about Jake Ferguson. So I think it's a pricing matchup. And then on the Denver side, it's a stacking issue for roster percentage.
Yeah, I'm looking at our optimizer right now. The highest roster player that we have currently as of this recording is Cortland Sutton at 10.7%. And even that could change. So that's crazy to think about. That's not normal in terms of Dallas games. But the Broncos, My issue with Bo Nix has been that it works and it looks good when he's outside of the pocket. We like the scrambling ability, but I feel like to me it's a Sean Payton issue too. That his the thing that he's really good at or has been good at since the Saints days is that he can make anybody into a star. Whoever it is, Marquez Colston back in the day with the Saints. It's like this offense. Every single week he tries to figure out what can I kind of do different with it and kind of figure it out along the way. So I think that Sutton is the easiest click, and yet there's a lot of stuff here that just doesn't make a lot of sense. You know that he actually ranks 4th in the team in targets per out run?
Sutton does?
Yeah, it's just you're not getting the crazy volume that you think you do all the time. But, I think he's the easiest click, and people are going to be playing Nix. So it's you start off with Nix, Sutton, and then you got to figure out a third piece on the other to kind of bring along there, and then bring it back with CD or Pickens on the other side.
You could just skinny it too. If you thought, Nix has one of his 2 rushing touchdown type games that he had last week or something like that. Hope he runs close to the goal line. You could sell me on that for sure. Yeah, that's always the tough part, right? Is you don't know where the ball is going to go. And especially when, if you play on DK and we're rewarded for reception volume as far as the scoring goes, it really does knock these guys in projection. Not to say that you can't play them, you certainly can, but that's just why they don't project well. I just wanted to highlight that for folks. So, yeah, for me, I don't know that I want to get super unique off the board. I know you mentioned on the Tuesday show that you were kind of interested in a little Marvin Mims, large field dart throw type of thing. I could buy that. But I do think if you're going to play him, for me, it's just let's keep it simple and stack him with Sutton.
One of the things I realized when I was going through the player pool this week is that there are a number of players that I'm just calling they're stick of dynamite plays. You light them up, the Marvin Mims, the Alec Pierces of the world, Rashid Shaheed, all of those players that you're I know that those players could go for 100. They're the type of deep threats. They're also the plays that could burn you. Rashid Shaheed, I've written him up as a dart throw, and some weeks I feel like a genius. I love the coverage, and then he does nothing. Marvin Mims is one of those plays. He did run a season-high 57% of the routes last week, leads the team in ADOT. So there is reason here to say, okay, we know Dallas's pass defense has been bad. So he interests me. I could see myself double stacking Nix with Sutton, Mims, and then picking someone on the other side. Dobbins is an interesting play because Dallas's rush defense has been bottom 5 in every single way imaginable. Against zone, they're 31st in rush success rate. Against man and gap, 30th. They're dead last in scheduled adjusted fantasy points over the last month. And I think this is the best offensive line in football. Protecting the quarterback and in the run game. So I think Dobbins, is a really, really good play as well. Leverage off of Bo Nix teams. We didn't even mention Dobbins in the cash conversation. So I think Dobbins is a really good contrarian play in this matchup.
For sure, and especially if you just think the game hits the under, which, certainly could happen, then I think playing just Dobbins and getting out of here does make a lot of sense.
So last little thought here. Dak is not going to get played. Because he's more expensive, right? He's a lot more expensive than Nix. He's not really in the cash conversation because it's I could play Hurts, so you're not going to play him. But Dak could get there. We've had Dak games where just volume-wise, he goes bonkers. So thoughts on a Dak skinny stack with Dobbins on the other side?
Yeah, I think that also could make sense, especially if you think that the Broncos, get up to a lead, they cover the spread, and Dak is just being forced to chuck in the second half. They're 3.5-point road underdogs here, so that's definitely possible. And we have seen them when they are behind, they are willing to abandon the run and just chuck it. So I also think you could play that angle and just say, hey, we might just get volume here. And, Dobbins falls in the end zone twice, and all of a sudden, Dak and the Cowboys are kind of in, oh crap mode, we have to throw, and he's just dropping back over and over again. So, yeah, I think that also makes sense too. A Dak to CD, Dobbins on the other side, that makes sense.
Yeah, and like I said, with the roster percentage, then you don't have to get too weird at the other spots in your lineup. This is already a low-rostered game. So I would be taking Dallas plus 3.5.
I also like that call.
I'm a Dallas guy these days, just totally on them. Last week, I was like, Dallas money line.
And you're right.
No matter what.
You were right.
It was a weird feeling to kind of, maybe Andy, he's been kind of off the last 2 weeks on almost upsets.
Yeah, I'm losing money.
Yeah, I don't recommend doing that at all. Chicago at Baltimore. Over-unders 49.5. Baltimore is 6.5-point home favorites. This assumes Lamar Jackson is playing. He's kind of been limited in practice. Do we have any update on his status?
He was limited on Wednesday and Thursday. There's some weird rumblings of he was third in the rotation through the quarterback order. So I would not, if you're listening this Friday morning, and we'll know later today, obviously, I would not put it in pen that Lamar is going to play in this game. Just make sure you're tracking everything going on today on Friday. But like I said, it does seem like he's not quite 100%, even if he plays. So I think we should certainly dock the rushing potential in this spot.
I will tell you right now, I liked the under of this game earlier this week when it was at 50.5. I still don't mind the under because there's routes where it just doesn't work out so well. Baltimore is 26th in seconds per game, 31st in offensive plays per game. And I think both these teams want to run the ball. I think that's the way that this game sets up well. And both of these teams, you can run on them. Between Chicago and Baltimore, yards before contact, they are bottom 5 in the league. So can we just start talking about Derrick Henry? That's where I want to start.
Please.
He's good. He's cheap. He's a home favorite. He's coming off the bye. And yet when I've brought this up this week, the main question I have from people is it snowing in Vermont? I'm serious.
I mean, they're probably making snow, in the mountains at the resorts. But I did look ahead, and it looks like not currently this weekend. It will be cold. So in the mountains, you'll probably see some on there, but I don't think it will be actively snowing.
You know what? Screw the model.
The model's old.
Derrick Henry.
The model was good 4 years ago. The model's been bad ever since.
So yesterday. Just so out of date.
Yeah, play Derrick Henry.
So as you don't know, Betz used to live in Vermont. Whenever it snowed there, Derrick Henry would do well. We used to use that as the main part of our analysis, and it worked out really well. But
it actually did work.
It worked pretty well. He's a great play. Derrick Henry. I also think Swift profiles as a good play in terms of the matchup. You're obviously not playing those two together. Swift presents more as leverage on Derrick Henry lineups. But if Lamar is playing in this game, are you interested in playing him at all or just kind of a wait and see?
It's probably the wrong way to go about doing it because in tournaments, right, we are playing for first, right? So if you're wrong, who cares, basically?
No, dude, I'm a min cash guy. I just want to be at the podium.
There's nothing better than finishing 32nd. So in that aspect, you should say, hey, look, what if he is actually healthy and what if he does, rip off 60 rushing yards and a score and he beats Jalen Hurts at much higher roster percentage and he laps Bo Nix and, there are paths, don't get me wrong. It's just the practice reports and practice statuses just seem like he's not there. So maybe that's more like a large field approach where you need to hit the nuts anyway to win. In smaller field stuff, maybe it's not quite as appealing. That's kind of how I'm leaning with that, if that makes sense. But look, they've got a huge team total. They're favored. They are desperate. They have to win this game, right? They have to. So if you think the Ravens come out and they give you their best effort here, certainly whether it's a passer or just, patting it a little bit with his legs, I think Lamar is in play for tournaments. Again, for me, only large field, but I definitely think there's upside. It's just, I would love to see a full practice Friday.
It's interesting because Flowers and Henry, I think, are going to be popular plays. And yet, Lamar, we're just going to have to wait and see. He's cheap for Lamar at 6,800. So I get the appeal of playing him in tournaments. So it's probably large field only for me as well. I did want to give a little love to our boy, Mark Andrews.
Okay, please.
I mean, he's good.
Is he?
No, I don't know. No, so basically, the way that Chicago has given up points in the passing game is 2 slot receivers. Zay Flowers plays all over the field, and yet Mark Andrews essentially is this team's starting slot wide receiver. Maybe Isaiah Likely gets worked in more after the bye, but I do think Andrews profiles as a pretty solid play at 3,600, and nobody else wants to play him, despite the fact that people are really in on the Ravens. So I think he profiles as a pretty good large field play, especially because we talked about the cash tight ends, Cade Otton, Schultz, that are right around. So never been a better week to label Mark Andrews as a PPP.
Yeah, I mean, let's look. We haven't really lost money on Mark Andrews this year. We do it at least once a year. This feels like a
we
nice
get
spot
to write
do
it off every year in our company expenses. It's already in the line items.
This feels like a good spot to do it. I'm just pulling up where he's at. Yeah, 3,600, like you said. Price point makes sense. The matchup makes sense. If Lamar is not scrambling, it's an extra couple dropbacks potentially. So, yeah, and look, at 3,600, we're not asking him to be Mark Andrews of old, right? Like, at this salary,
we're not asking him to be Mark Andrews.
No, we just need him to be better than Dalton Schultz. And I'm not sure if that's going to happen. But the one in this range, right? K. Dotton, Schultz, Mark Andrews, whatever other name you want to throw in there, like, whoever is going to win this price point at tight end is probably just like a touchdown and 4 or 5 catches, right? That's the most likely scenario. I think the Ravens are probably going to score a bunch of points here. So you could definitely talk me into it in a tournament.
It makes me feel like in the Electoral College where it's like, you just have to win Rhode Island.
That's right.
Which like doesn't get a ton of votes, but you win that state, it adds to it. It just adds.
Great connection, like, Kyle. Let's just go through the tight ends that are 3,600 and cheaper, okay? Mark Andrews, 3,600. Mason Taylor.
Oh, dude, that guy has as many forced tackles as me and you on the season. That guy should be out of the league.
Great matchup, though, against the Bengals.
Yes.
K. Dotton. I mean, obviously,
well, he's going to smash.
Dalton Schultz.
Barely in the league.
Juwan Johnson.
We're still waiting on his 40 time for Dalton Schultz to come in.
We are. Juwan Johnson?
I love him, but no.
Okay. Noah Fant.
He's been involved recently.
Those are the guys right below him in pricing. So, come on, Marky. Don't let us down.
And then Colston Loveland, a little bit lower, a 3K in the same game, I think is also a solid play. So I looked deeper into the Chicago matchup because Caleb Williams, I have poo-pooed on a lot as an NFL quarterback adjusting to NFL defenses. He can't play the same way he did in college. Betz, he has been so much better this year against man coverage, which Baltimore plays 39% of the time, third highest rate in the league. Like it shocked me. I just went in assuming like, okay, this is the same Caleb Williams. Like he is second in completion percentage in the entire league against man coverage. Last year he was dead last. Number 1 in YPA, second in passer rating, and 8 in fantasy points per dropback against man coverage. Small sample size, but this matchup is going to ask him to do that a little bit more. So I think Caleb is a sneaky play if you want to stack him up. And the Chicago side, like, they're not going to be played a crazy amount on this slate. So I think Caleb is better than what I thought he was going to be going into this matchup.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. He's also been pretty good against the blitz, which I was kind of shocked about. But yeah, I think he's certainly interesting, especially if you think the script is, or the spread, is right. Right, like Baltimore gets ahead, they feed Henry a bunch, he scores 2 touchdowns, and all of a sudden, yeah, we think the Bears want to be a run-first team. In the most recent weeks, that's what they've done under Ben Johnson, and they really have gotten going with DeAndre Swift and the offensive line playing pretty good in run blocking. But if the spread is right and they do fall behind by 10, 14 points, we know what Caleb can do in a negative game script, right? He's done it all last year. Even when the actual product on the field wasn't incredible, he was still getting home for fantasy because of this, garbage time type, negative game script type stuff. So that definitely makes a lot of sense to me, in tournaments, because no one's going to play this side of the ball at all.
Yeah, Caleb double stack with, let's say, Rome and a cheap Colston Loveland, and then you have Henry on the other side, I think is a really easy way to get access to this game. And, Henry's the only really popular play.
Have you seen anything updated for the Bears practice?
I don't have a direct feed.
Come on, Kyle. Do you even care? All right, just make sure you're tracking news. We're basically, recommending Loveland just because Cole Kmet left last week with a back injury and then didn't practice on Wednesday. So make sure you're tracking that news.
What do you like? What would you take Vegas wise in this game? I would take the under.
Yeah, it has moved down a full point, hasn't it?
Why do you think it moved down?
Moving the line.
Dude, when you throw half a unit, things change.
Oh, man. I'm going to take the Bears to cover here.
Okay, I thought about that too as the side that I like the most. So, wow, we are backing the Bears. They're being competent. And I'm saying that I might play some Caleb Williams stacks. I haven't been changed. Man, let's take a break, and we'll be right back.
Avoiding your unfinished home projects because you're not sure where to start? Thumbtack knows homes, so you don't have to. Don't know the difference between matte paint finish and satin? Or what that clunking sound from your dryer is? With Thumbtack, you don't have to be a home pro. You just have to hire one. You can hire top-rated pros, see price estimates, and read reviews, all on the app. Download today.
At 1-800-Flowers.com, we know that connections are at the heart of being human. Whether celebrating life's joys or comforting during tough times, 1-800-Flowers helps you express what words can't. For nearly 50 years, millions have trusted 1-800-Flowers to deliver thoughtful gifts that help create lasting bonds. Because it's more than just a gift. It's your way of showing you care. Visit 1-800-Flowers.com/SXM and connect today. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/SXM.
All right, let's highlight one more game. It's Tampa Bay at New Orleans. Tampa Bay is 4.5-point road favorites. The over-under is 46.5. The old Baker Mayfield versus the Rat Tail, the Rat King, whatever you want to call him. It's not great. And yet the Saints have kind of given us enough fantasy goodness in the passing game. We're like, okay, we've had some Juwan Johnson weeks. Last week, Chris Olave showed the world why expected fantasy points matter. Had 2 touchdowns.
He was popping. He was popping in the models.
Dude, the model's saying that this dude's about to do work. Last year, they played twice because they're in the NFC South. Their games averaged 62 total points and 133 combined plays. So overall, we like this environment. Baker's been cooking this year. The Saints are number 1 in neutral pace. So overall, this is why this game is included here, despite being a much lower total. Where do you want to start the conversation?
Yeah, and just to add some notes here too on kind of what's going on as far as like the environment and the pace and stuff like that. The game is obviously in a dome, right? They're taking on New Orleans in New Orleans. The pace is going to be up from Kellen Moore's side. It always is. But also, when you think about how Bucs games historically have gone when they're not playing the Lions, who were just run wild over them in that primetime game, other than that, teams have been kind of forced to throw. From an EPA perspective, they are a top 10 team against the run. They are, I believe, 22nd off the top of my head against the pass. So when you think about how, like, what's most likely to happen here, is it like an inefficient Alvin Kamara rushing attack against this front four from the Bucs, especially without their starting center, who's on IR, by the way? I would be very, very surprised. So I think just by like the nature of the way the game is probably going to go the way it has to go, there's going to be volume from Spencer Rattler. Will it be efficient? Who the heck knows? I would be surprised if it's efficient, but we've seen him, like you said, throughout the course of the season, at least from what we were expecting in August, like everybody said this is going to be a complete disaster. And it hasn't been great, but there's been moments of it being competent and supporting,
for sure,
supporting Olave, Shaheed, and Juwan Johnson. And I think if you're going to stack this game, that's really all you're asking for. So I do think the Saints are going to have to throw here. So we already talked about Olave. I'm actually really interested in Rashid Shaheed this week. Be ready for, 2 catches, 12 yards, no touchdown. But also, he could go for 100 at a touchdown. There's a wide range of outcomes here. The reason I like him is because the Bucs have allowed the 3rd most 20-plus yard completions in the league. When you think about some of these big Shaheed games, that certainly makes a lot of sense to me. So I do like him as kind of a sneaky play on the Saints side.
He is one of those stick of dynamite dudes that you just say, hey, Shaheed, Marvin Mims, any of these guys, like they could go off. And I like mixing those in. If you're playing in a, let's say a 20 max, like that, those are the ones that you get to mix in your tournaments instead of Olave and be able to get some leverage. Spencer Rattler's 4,700. He will get clicked this week. As silly as his name is, it's very easy to say I'm going to play Rattler, Olave, and Shaheed together. And on the other side, say I'm playing Rachaad White and Egbuka. Like we talked about the other games not being as popular. White, Egbuka, and Olave are cash names that will spill over and be fairly popular. Like I think Rachaad White is going to end up being 25% or more in large field, which is,
I think.
Yeah. And I think we would say he's good chalk. Like, I don't think he's a talented player, but it's hard to argue against the opportunities. And at 6,400, it's a fine price tag. So just be careful, though, in this game. It's not like it's off the radar. No one's playing it. Like, pricing-wise, I think it will get played.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you on that. I do like it though. Like I think this game really can hit the over. I like this game quite a bit because of some of the cheaper options in it. We talked about how salary is kind of an issue on this slate. Rashid Shaheed on DraftKings, as I said, is 4,700. It's pretty friendly. Juwan Johnson is a cheap stacking partner if you are going to play Rattler, or if you want to use him as the bring back. And then on the other side, because of all the injuries, like you know exactly where the ball is going to go for the most part. So it's White, it's Ibuka, Baker obviously I think is a good play too, and it's Cade Otton who's 3,400. But I also think Tez Johnson is pretty interesting if you think the usage from last week spills over, which I kind of think it almost has to, just based off of the injuries here. He's 4,300 on DraftKings. So this is a game that I think you can get 2, 3, 4 pieces of because the salaries are not prohibitive, and then spend up elsewhere in your lineup. So I actually really do like this game from stacking perspective.
I feel so bad for Alvin Kamara as a fantasy asset. He's done well in his career. He's going to retire as a Saint, as like an all-timer. It's just a really hard click, man.
I know, like 5,700, and I didn't even think of him.
I mean, he presents as very great leverage in this game. If you play a Baker double stack, and instead of including White, you play Kamara on the other side, awesome leverage. So I think game theory wise, I'm fine with him if you're attacking with this game, but I'm not playing Kamara unless you think this game hits the under and the Saints somehow have a run game all of a sudden.
I don't think they're going to be able to against this Bucs front four.
Right. So you need him to be old Kamara that gets, 7-8 receptions, which is not how the Kellen Moore version of Kamara works.
Yeah, it's been kind of weird. He still has 3+ catches in 4 straight games, but those outlier
7.
I know those outlier reception games, which you get from Devon Achane at times, right? Those just haven't really been there in this new system, in this new scheme. So it is a tough click, but if you want somebody low rostered in this game, guaranteed it will be Alvin Kamara.
Baker, I think is a good play. I think people are a little disappointed after this past week. And on Monday night, he just left a lot of opportunities. But 6,400, you stack him up with Egbegbu, who is 7K.
Rookie sensation, wide receiver out of Ohio State, Emeka Egbegbu.
He's going to project really well. I did want to ask you about our boy, Tez Johnson. He's going to get played too.
What are you seeing for a roster percentage right now?
I mean, for somebody who is part of that Dynamite, just see what probably 5 to 7%, which is
fine.
more than, that's just, he's such a thin player and such a thin outcome.
Why are you laughing, Kyle? Why did you laugh when you said that?
It just fits so well.
He's such a thin player, period.
Well, usually we talk about a thin play, oh gosh, but yeah, Otton's going to get played. It's just the Buccaneers are going to get played a ton. So looking at their implied total, 25.5. If you're saying that the Buccaneers are in this game, you're playing at least 2 guys from their lineup. And are you saying I'm going to play White and Toothpick together? Or are you playing Egbegbu in a stack with Baker and one other piece?
I think if you're stacking Baker, I suppose he could have a great game with Tez and Cade, but I almost think if he's going to have a ceiling game that matters in DFS, I find a hard time seeing it without Ibuka. So I would play him with that. And I'm fine either way. If you wanted to tack on a cheap guy, that's fine. If you wanted to play him with Rashad White because he will get receiving work, that's also fine. And if you think this team scores 30 points, then you just want all the touchdowns. Sometimes that works on a smaller DFS slate. So I think that is definitely viable. Just know if you do that combination, you do need to get a little bit different elsewhere in your lineup. So I think it's fine. I think these guys are all good plays, even though they are going to get played somewhat at a high clip.
All right, what's your Vegas take?
I like the over in this game.
I think I do too. In a dome, we profiled the other one. I'm over that as well. Moving on.
Slate Breaker of the Week.
I really think that you could name 10 slate breakers this week.
You definitely
could. And I'd be okay with it. And maybe for this segment in the future, just for legal reasons, we name 10 so that we get credit. But I will be throwing out Rome Odunze this week. He is 6,300. And the last 2 weeks, so they came off the bye. Usually you're okay, this team was game planning with their top wide receiver. He's been the wide receiver 58 and wide receiver 63 the last 2 weeks. This game has a 49.5 total, like we talked about. The Ravens are 28th in scheduled adjusted fantasy points allowed to wide receivers, and they play a ton of man coverage, which is what Rome is good at doing, the bully ball. He has a 35% target share against man coverage this year, 4th highest in the NFL. I think he presents as a really, really, really good play as 6,300, and he's not going to spill over from cash. So I'm going to be overweight Rome Odunze this week.
I like that call quite a bit. He doesn't fit, like you said, with kind of the optimal cash build, so I think you're really safe from a roster percentage standpoint. Love that call. I'm going to give 2 because I want one expensive and one cheap. Okay. I'm going Rashid Shaheed on the cheap end. I don't know why. I just have a good feeling about it. He's coming off a game where he had 9 targets that was tied for a season high.
He's so fun to play.
He's so fun.
DFS.
I love when you get a snowflake in there every time. It's so fun. But he could give us a game like we had in week 5 where he went 4 for 114 and 1. Like you do need a deep reception here. I talked about it already. The Bucs are giving up a ton of deep targets and deep catches, so I think this game profiles perfectly for Rashid Shaheed. So I will throw him out as a very cheap play. In the expensive range, I'm not going to be scared of the Denver matchup. I'm going to play a ton of CeeDee Lamb this week and hope that Dak is pushed and they come from behind and they have to throw a lot. Fade the matchup, fade the cornerback wide receiver stuff. Lean into CeeDee Lamb as the expensive wide receiver on the slate.
Prop it like it's hot.
They tell me this segment has done quite well. Corporate, they had a huge meeting the other day with, all of these investors, all these people. The main thing that came up was this segment from the DFS and Betting podcast. I mean, they flew in all these people and they're like, how are Borg Betz doing so well in this segment? And, we're just trying to give you guys good lines.
I mean, we got the ins, Kyle. We know people on the inside giving us the good plays. Terry Rozier.
Terry's feeding us some lines.
Was that too soon?
It's very, very soon. It is about as soon as you could get.
Goodness gracious. Oh, man. What is that? What a disaster in the NBA.
Oh, man. It's really, really bad. All right. So Betz and I separately landed on lines for Packers, which they play on Sunday night. I will be taking the over on Jordan Love's rushing yards. It's at 11.5. He's hit this in 5 straight games. There's lots of opportunities for scrambles. Pittsburgh is facing the highest pass rate over expectation, their defense, of any team over the last month. They're going to have to throw the ball a lot. They're giving up the 2nd most passing yards per game. You could take this route with Jordan Love and figure out a way to take the over of some of his passing lines because they've been a lot lower. And I think this game will be different, but I'm going to be taking the rushing yards, and I need you as a people to do this for me. This is a Jeremy Grantham, who's our producer, Al Borland. Okay. This is a Jeremy special because he has snipped out this line each of the last 5 weeks and just been making the books pay. So Jeremy, I've actually just named him the head of our footballers investment group. He's in charge of all the betting. So make sure on Twitter at producer Borland, you just tag him and say, hey, I hear that you are the head of footballers investments and betting. What do you think about this Jordan Love line?
Yes, please. Everybody tag him all weekend with your questions.
Don't tell him that I told you. Just say, hey, I heard you got named this. Great promotion, buddy.
Yes, please do that. He has been playing this every week, and he keeps telling us, guys, this is undefeated, which of course means now it won't hit. But
no, but I like the opportunity in this game.
It does make a lot of sense. I'm with you. In the same game, what has gotten into us? 2 overs? I mean, come on. Tucker Kraft over 47.5 yards. Now, I'm hesitant laying tight end overs, especially when they're this high of a line. But Tucker Kraft is not just another tight end in the league. This man is an absolute maniac.
He's the Yak King.
He's the Yak King. He's a maniac with the ball in his hands, and now he gets the matchup against the Steelers, who have gotten crushed by opposing tight ends. They're giving up 12 yards per catch at the position, over 67 yards per game to tight ends so far this year. We've seen guys like Noah Fant go for 44 yards. Harold Fannin had 81. Hawkinson had 39. Hunter Henry had 90 in this matchup. And when you think about, like you said, it's a tight spread. They're on the road. Like, I think they might have to throw in this spot. And we're still not sure how many routes like Christian Watson's actually going to run if he does play in his first game off the ACL. No Jaden Reed. Dontavian Wicks is out. I just think the opportunity is going to be there, and he's going to rip off a couple long plays.
Love it. All right, one more segment, and this one is stressing me out.
Well, if you take a look at this, I tented my pants.
People, we are into week 8 of our survivor pool. And maybe it doesn't mean a lot to you, but for Betz and I, we have thought through a lot of different things. The main teams that we are looking at for survivor pool this week are the Ravens at home against Chicago if Lamar plays. It's on the table. The Falcons at home against the Dolphins. Very, very interesting. Home team, Benz is rocking. But I think the Bills on the road against Carolina, we've been saving them. Josh Allen has never lost 3 games in a row in his career. They're coming off 2 losses. They're coming off the bye. They've been preparing. Sean McDermott, former Panthers DC. You know, there's something at stake there.
So much revenge in this game.
Yeah, I know it's been like 9 years since he did that, but man, he's been holding on to that the entire time. I think that the Bills, I think we don't want to look up and say, man, we chose some other dumb team like the Falcons, when we could just say, if we went down, we went down with Josh Allen.
It's as simple as that. Let's not overthink it. This man has never lost 3 games in a row in his career. They're rested. They're off the bye. They do have a couple injuries I'm monitoring on the defensive side, which I think matter. But if they could get healthy here, and if Matt Milano plays, that's a huge piece. But I was telling Kyle this beforehand. It's like, just a few days ago, this past week, when the Jets and Panthers played, the Vegas line was basically a pick 'em in that game. Like the market, the most liquid market in all sports betting was saying the Jets and the Panthers are kind of on par with each other. Let's just not overthink it, man. Let's just play Josh Allen. Let's just play the Bills. If they beat us, if they lose, if Andy Dalton does this, it wasn't meant to be. So go Bills Mafia.
Also, just if you wanted to play the Bengals, I think the Bengals are also another team.
Oh yeah,
you could consider.
Yeah, we were strongly considering the Bengals and the Falcons. I think they're all good plays this week.
Oh gosh, I'm gonna stress out about those teams so much this weekend.
Don't let us down, right, Josh.
Yeah, come on, Josh. All right, that's gonna do it for this episode. Make sure you check out everything we have at the DFS Pass, dfspass.com. Tell everyone goodbye.
Yes, sir. Make sure you're checking out all the props and the articles in the DFS Pass this weekend. Remember, Al Borland on Twitter is your go-to guy for prop betting this weekend. Make sure you tag him all weekend. We'll be back on Tuesday to recap it all. Enjoy the football. Good luck this week.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com.
Come to DSW for the shoes, stay for the fun. Because, let's be honest, if shoe shopping isn't fun, are you even doing it right? So go ahead, try something new. Try something different. Good different. Try something that feels like you. You know, the real you. And then definitely brag about it later. Because at DSW, you've got unlimited freedom to play. Find the shoes that get you at prices that get your budget at DSW stores or at DSW.com. Let us surprise you.